Hi, and welcome to a cognitive psychology video. Today we will be discussing eyewitness testimonies. Are they reliable? Is there perhaps a flaw in our justice system? Hopefully we can uncover some truths about eyewitness testimonies. We all know eyewitnesses are critical in solving crimes. In fact, it's often the only evidence we have to go off of to determine a culprit. This means eyewitnesses have a very important role in the justice system. So what's the problem? Well, psychology researchers in the 1970s began expressing concerns about eyewitness testimonies. Their research began to uncover more and more flaws in the system. Not until the early 1990s did the criminal justice system begin taking these concerns seriously. With the development of forensic DNA tests, more than 100 people who were convicted prior were exonerated, with more than 75% of these falsely convicted due to mistaken eyewitness identification. So let's look at a couple factors. Well, what about fabricating evidence? Surely you would be able to tell if a video was fabricated. In a study run by Wade, Green, and Nesh, they tested fabricating evidence on eyewitness testimony. They brought participants in to do a gambling study. The participants were asked to make bets, and if they got the question correct, they got a green check on their computer screen and then took money from the bank. If they got the question wrong, they got a big red X on the screen and were asked to give money back to the bank. The catch with this was that they did this alongside a Confederate. The Confederate was doing the exact same procedure, taking money when they were supposed to and giving money back when they were supposed to. About 5 to 7 hours later, the participant was asked to come back because the researchers said that the Confederate had been cheating. The participants were then shown a video, doctored of course, of the Confederate cheating. 50% of the participants signed an eyewitness testimony saying that they did in fact see the Confederate cheat. 4 out of the 12 wrote down additional incriminating details. Well, that's not a very emotional, stimulating event. Like, maybe they were too focused on their own computer screen, maybe there are some other questions involved there. But emotional memories must be more salient, and so you wouldn't get an eyewitness testimony wrong there then, right? Well, research by Laney and Loftus were actually able to induce false memories in 20% of participants, the false memory of catching their parents having sex. There was also little difference on emotionality scales given after inducing these false memories. The emotionality scales looked pretty similar for true and false memories. Well, what about a lineup? Surely a person would be able to look at another person and determine whether or not it was the perpetrator. There are actually a ton of factors that go into false identification in a lineup, one of these being the same race effect. People do a better job identifying others of the same race than they do of another race. Another factor is weapons focus during an event. If there is a gun involved, people are much more focused on the gun in an event rather than the details surrounding the event. Another factor is a meta-analysis performed by Stebley, in which witnesses who were exposed to biased instructions in the lineup, either leading or pressuring instructions, were more likely to make a false identification. 60% of participants rather than 35%. Finally, an ironic but sad story to end on. In 1975, Donald Thompson, an eyewitness researcher, was accused by a woman that he attacked and raped her the night before. The victim had actually been watching Thompson on television that night when he was giving a presentation about eyewitness testimony. The witness had recognized Thompson, and so by familiarity, thought Thompson was the attacker. Luckily, Thompson was exonerated, but many have not been so lucky. All of this research draws upon a greater need for understanding in the court system on psychological processes to prevent these events from happening. More fair lineups, less reliance on eyewitness testimony, All of these things need to be mitigated in order to improve the justice system. Thank you for staying tuned.